Batasai also asks, what is holding back Disney to push hard with animation stories? New ones and adapting some novels and comics that would be a hit for sure. I think, of course, Dark Disciple or the comic run of Vader in Legends, that one where the Separatist dinosaur appears and joins into a crew. I think, first of all, it's something we all want. Like, I really would love to see that. I would love them to adapt Legends books. If that was our way of getting Legends adaptations, so be it. I'd love them to adapt canon books. Like, I think it would be really fun. It would be a fun little extra on Disney Plus. Unfortunately, Disney just doesn't seem to be in the business of extras on Disney Plus. And frankly, I think that's part of it has to do with just the fact that they're really competing and desperately searching for mass subscribership. I mean, in the post-COVID bubble, right, all the streaming services outside of Netflix have really struggled to find footing and maintain a consistent subscriber base. And so I think Disney, when it comes to Disney Plus, is putting their money towards things they think will appeal to the largest amount of people. And if starting like a whole Star Wars animated adaptation division of Lucasfilm was needed for this type of project, I don't know if it's necessarily top on their to-do list of things that will get people to join Disney Plus. Now, you could also talk about and have the argument of like, sure, it doesn't get people to join Disney Plus, but these types of little drops, these things that you sprinkle throughout the year, i.e. a Visions or a Tales of, those types of things are the types of things that keep current subscribers happy and current subscribers subscribed so that they can keep watching stuff throughout the year. And it doesn't have to be the biggest thing, but the hardcore fans who want everything Star Wars can watch as much Star Wars as they want all year round and get some new things sprinkled throughout. And I think that argument is very, very fair. I mean, if you do look at the DC universe, animated universe, for its varying quality, I mean, basically every year from like 2007 to 2000, well, to now, we've gotten at least one DC animated movie, sometimes two or three, what started as adaptations of the comics. And personally, I think they were far better as adaptations of the comics before they started this animated universe that they tried to kind of duct tape together. What started as just adaptations of comics turned into this whole universe that people were invested in. You could do that with low budget animation or just the Clone Wars animation that you've been using for years, and people would be, I think, down for that. I think ultimately DC itself, when you look at their history, made cuts because they weren't making enough money before they were hiring animators to replicate the comic art into animation for years, and then eventually decided, hey, let's just say it's a universe and make everything the exact same cheap, low budget animation, and then that's how we get what we eventually got. So I mean, they're good and bad qualities to both, but I do think Disney Plus, just as a consumer, as somebody who has Disney Plus and has it year round, I would use Disney Plus far more and go there to check out other new content that wasn't Star Wars or Marvel related, because that's what I'm there to watch most of on Disney Plus. I would go back to the platform far more, or think about the platform far more, if they had random little drops like that consistently got me on my Disney Plus app and not away from it for 3-4 weeks. If they did that, I think it would be a little bit more satisfying to audiences. But kind of, I think one of the problems with Disney Plus is that it's so broad appealing across so many different types of sub fan groups, but yet doesn't have the library of everything that like a Netflix has, to where they have a hard time maintaining those specific sub fandoms for a very long time. So these types of things I think would be really good for maintaining those sub fandoms if they put the money into it. But again, it's not the type of thing that's going to bring in a lot of new eyes to their platform. The only way you bring in a lot of new eyes with this is if you make 5 or 6 of them and fans really start going, hey, these are actually really great, you need to watch these. If the word of mouth got out there after a long stretch of doing really well with them, I think people would give them a chance more broadly. That aside, I'm holding out hope that one day we at least get them to attempt it. I just think purely it's the recontextualization of what streaming is to the Walt Disney Company, what streaming means for just everybody in the film industry moving forward, how they approach Star Wars as a specific franchise, because Star Wars is getting a reboot basically next year with Mandalorian and Grogu in the theaters. How do we approach Star Wars film versus Star Wars TV? Does Star Wars animation make more sense as a film release, an animated film release, versus an animated Disney Plus drop? Like, what is our business strategy around that? And I think right now everything's up in the air when it comes to specifically the divide between streaming and film.
Yeah, Animation is just in a weird place in general these days. I mean, right now in theaters, we got Demon Slayer, Infinity Castle 1 out, and people are loving it. I mean, I went and saw it, right? I did a binge of season 1 before Mugen Train had come out, and then I just kinda dropped it, and then I just binged all through every season and every arc get to this because now they're concluding their entirety of the adaptation, the final arc in 3 movies. That's how it was announced, and at first I was like, "Eh, I don't wanna do that." Then I went to see it, and I'm like, "Well, man, definitely worth it just for the animation alone." It's just incredible, right? And anime becoming so massive, like, it was already pretty big when we were in high school. It was starting to become, like, pretty centralized, like, especially, like, having come from an Asian background, like, most of my friends just watched anime over, like, TV shows and cartoons, right? I was that kid that had, like, a mix of everything. I still loved watching Cartoon Network for, like, stuff like Regular Show and Adventure Time. I would watch some anime here and there that I liked, especially after getting into, like, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and then, obviously, TV shows, right? Like, live action stuff, especially when once you're, like, in high school and college. Around that time, that was, like, the peak of HBO, right? Game of Thrones was on a great high. Everything was just being pumped and pumped more and more. Like, the streaming era hadn't quite started, but, like, the concept of it and the bones of it were already in place. So, I was checking out everything. But now, everything's kinda changed, everything's kinda falling apart, and the thing that is working is anime. Anime has just kinda kicked off to an insane degree compared to even just American cartoons and all that. And yes, there are huge flaws in that industry. They overwork their workers to death, right? The pay is horrible. It is indicative a lot of like just Japan having like a very strong work and work culture, not necessarily work and leisure culture at times. Like mangakas and animators in general, they're working to the bone, to the death because of their passion and because it's almost like the only way to survive for them, right? So could America, studios that are under Disney or like licensed out from Disney be able to achieve that level? It's not unprecedented. We know like stuff like Avatar, The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra, and that upcoming Avatar series. They used a lot of Korean animation studios and all that. And I don't think anybody ever looks at those shows and is like, oh, it's terrible, right? We're seeing stuff like on Amazon Prime now that we're getting a little bit more animation 2D kind of kicking back into gear here. Not necessarily in the same way as like the prime of like the 90s with Disney 2D animation, but we're seeing like Legend of Vox Machina and stuff like that, where like adult animation has started kicking the gear. Like there is an increasing demand for Western animation to almost return to that 2D animation route. But for so long, the stuff that survived here has been a little bit more based on quirkier designs, more on just like the reactiveness of like expanding and changing your characters. There was like a small period of Flash animation that had like progressed for a while, but then Flash is quite literally gone now. Like everything's kind of changed here. And now it's like there's a huge gap between the people who are still doing it in the late 90s, early 2000s, and who eventually just had to convert to like 3D animation for Pixar and DreamWorks and all that to now they're like, well, we can't necessarily just jump back into 2D, right? So there's almost like a gap now. So could the animation under Lucasfilm immediately adapt to like 2D and capture people's audiences' attentions? Probably not, but they are making Disney as a whole are making some moves that I think are smart, right? The visions, volume 1, 2, and 3, right? Regardless of how you feel about them, it's a staging ground to at least be like, you know what? Even if we can't directly do it, let's just jump on that anime bandwagon right now. And they're bringing back volume 3, a couple of studios to do sequels to their volume 1 shorts, right? And we know that Ninth Jedi is getting a full-on blown series. I think that'll be a great way for people to just be like, I want to engage with Star Wars in meaningful stories, but not necessarily have to have a huge connective understanding of every single thing that's happening in the timeline of Star Wars canon and references and all that. Like it can be nice Easter eggs if you've been a fanatic like us, but you can just be a regular animation and anime fan and just watch that series and not miss a beat, right? So I think that's a smart move that they're doing there. Like Liam said, right? Yeah, we are still seeing the Tales of series kind of come out every May 4th now. It seems like that's the way they're going to handle using the Clone Wars animation post Bad Batch in its biggest form. Could it be used to get new subscribers with like full blown show? Like, yeah, I mean, Liam's talked about how we could see like almost something Clone Wars equivalent with like, the last days of the Empire, like the dark times, right? Full arcs of characters, like, maybe get a couple of what's going on, like a possible clone rebellion, or like, why do we not see, characters like Cody and anything again, right? We can have characters like, Han in his early days of the Imperial Academy, right? When he was maybe a pilot before he got transferred to Mimbom. We could see stuff that plays around with a bunch of other multimedia that's already come out and be a big show and still be like the central focus that's pulls in other stuff. And that could probably grab some people. But again, it's almost a little harder now with just how many things have been flooded into the dark times era that you're like, do I really want that era to be so supremely developed when there's just so much openness and so many different parts and so many steps in Star Wars timeline? I mean, the New Republic should theoretically be a great place for animation to thrive in, right? Like, comics have only recently started touching on that stuff. There's a good 5 years before everything that happens in The Mandalorian, but we're not using that, right? Because for some reason, it's kinda locked away. It was only until, like, the last year or 2 that they're like, "Okay, you can start doing stuff here." It'd be great to see, like, the Luke Skywalker's Academy in animation. I mean, Mark Hamill is an animation legend, right? He's voiced so many characters in animation. Why doesn't he just he's even if he's like, "Oh, I'm done with Luke as a character," he'll come back, I think, for, like, animation and being able to play this character and especially be able to play the Luke Skywalker that he's always wanted to do, right? There's just so much potential for big, expansive shows to happen. But I think the question now is, are we gonna still stick with the mannequin-esque animation, 3D animation that has become so synonymous with Lucasfilm animation? Or are we gonna finally make a big budget effort to get back into 2D animation and see if that's, like, the next way to, like, start pumping out a bunch of different shows? And, one studio can do this, one studio can do that, or and slowly build out, like, a homegrown amount of talent too. So that's kind of the difficult situation that they're in. I'm hoping it improves, but why we're not getting any big stories in animations because right now animation's been in a flux, and we've seen, like, Warner Brothers and all these other studios cut their animation departments more and more and more. So, for whatever Disney currently does have, I think they might be one of the more stable positions in Western animation right now. But to then be like, "Let's pump a bunch of money and take the big leap here," it's probably not gonna happen with the current state of just the entertainment industry as a whole. They have to work their way back up. We're still reeling from the effects of code. We're reeling from the effects of all these studios kind of merging together and disposing of stuff, even deleting content off of their platforms, which oftentimes is animation first too. Animation has become even less of a priority, right? Like, something as synonymous with cartoons, like Cartoon Network, was at risk, frankly, in the last year of just almost being entirely deleted as a channel. And that's, to me, shocking because it was like a baseline for so many kids. It's such a huge viewed network, but animation it's just not really well accepted. I think there's people these days who raise their kids and they watch Cocomelon, they watch Bluey and stuff like that, but they don't necessarily keep watching animation into their early teens and then maybe pick it up again once they're an adult. Like, there's just this weird gap that's also developing too. There's just so many problems in the States when it comes to animation that for Lucasfilm to just make this big swing, I don't think it'll happen for like another 10 years. I think we're just gonna get these little small projects before they finally develop what's like the next phase. Just like how live action has kind of taken a bunch of these soft starts, like semi reboots, and now we're gonna probably see the first real push to like soft reboot what Star Wars has been like after the first 12, 13 years of everything going on under the Disney purchase and its first initial wave of live action under the new stewardship.
Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. This was actually a clip from our live streaming Q&A where we're going to be starting a new thing called the fan question of the week.
These are sourced from our weekly live Q&As that are every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So this is a great chance for you guys to engage with us and we can have some great conversation on the lives. So make sure to try to join us on Tuesdays.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content just like this, and comment below. Let us know your thoughts on this video. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you all next time.